You sprint through the wreckage of the downed Chinook, with your AS Val primed and ready. An enemy appears from behind a burnt-out car. You snap to aim straight at their chest, quick pull of the trigger and they're down. Too slow for you. You reload and slide into cover. Footsteps ahead. You pop up and quickly tap both enemies on the street, racing up towards a kill streak already. Your gun clicks empty, but it's not a problem. You switch to your sidearm just in time to 180 the guy behind you. In the distance, you hear the boom of your claymore going off. Another kill. A grin spreads across your face as you sprint out of cover again, heading for the nearest building. With any luck, there'll be more hostiles in there to clear out. You take your hand off the controller and scratch your nose. You could do this for real, you reckon? How different could it be? An alert pings on your phone at the end of the match. The one thing that everyone had been saying could never happen has happened. Putin has invaded Ukraine. You set down the controller and look at yourself in the mirror. Time to put your money where your mouth is. You've never felt cold like this before. It doesn't just chill your skin, it's seeping into your spine. Every shaking breath you take fills your lungs with smoke and dirt. Lying in the bottom of this crater, there's nothing to do but wait for the enemy to come over that ridge and shoot you dead. You can't hear anything anymore, just a loud ringing that's been going ever since that jet flew overhead. The blood pouring out of your ears is nothing compared to the blood soaking your pants. The bottom half of your leg hangs limp at an odd angle. It should hurt like hell, but it doesn't. All you feel is cold. The bigger the red puddle around you grows, the colder and darker the world becomes. All you are left with is the hammering of the failing heart in your chest, the feces in your underwear, and the tears flooding your cheeks as you wait in terror for someone, anyone, to come over that ridge and put a bullet in your head. In the virtual realm of Call of Duty, a generation of young people soared as invincible heroes. They'd charge through war-torn landscapes with guns blazing and adrenaline coursing through their veins, all from the comfort of their bedroom. War was their language. It was how they connected with their friends at school, what they talked about on weekends, the content they'd stream online. In history class, when it came to analyzing World War II, they'd be able to list off all the main weapons used, along with their ammo count, strengths and weaknesses, right down to the ding of the M1 Garand when it emptied a clip. They grew up seeing snippets of real-life war on TV. Iraq, Afghanistan, soldiers dressed in the same camo they would rock in Modern Warfare 2, firing the guns that they'd then go upstairs and use in the virtual world. While journalists would patiently explain that FOB stands for Forward Operating Base to their parents, these guys would be rolling their eyes and racing to the next kill streak. For them, war was nothing more than a thrilling escape, a break from the monotony of their daily life. For an evening, they could forget that they were a middle-class white American in a cookie-cutter suburban house in a city built on a grid with 4 McDonald's and no libraries within a mile of their front door. For a few hours, they were soldiers. And not just any soldiers, damn near invincible ones, saving the world by gunning down one enemy at a time. So when the conflict erupted in Ukraine, for the first time in their lives, they had the opportunity to live out that fantasy. Forget going to the gun range on weekends with money borrowed from their parents. Forget paintball tournaments with try-hard losers. Forget enrolling in the US military and getting pushed around all day and night. All they needed to do was to spend a few $100 on a one-way ticket to Europe. With a few supplies in their rucksack, they could rock up on the front line and volunteer their services. They already knew the tactics, how to fire a gun, all of that. In fact, they were damn good at it. So they traded their gaming consoles for real weapons, their virtual avatars for flesh and blood. Enlisting as foreign mercenaries, they ventured into the heart of war, expecting the same exhilaration they felt in the game. Not only would they enjoy the fighting, they'd be lauded as heroes for coming to Ukraine's aid in its time of need. As the Call of Duty campaigns had always taught them, just one soldier can turn the tide of war. Any individual can be a hero. But the harsh reality of conflict soon shattered their illusions. If you ask any soldier what their job is like, they will tell you a similar thing. 99% boredom, 1% terror. There is a phrase often used in military circles: hurry up and wait. Much of a soldier's work is not diving for cover, gunning down hostiles and calling in airstrikes. It's standing guard, sitting in a foxhole for hours, days, or weeks on end, watching the same stretch of road for movement, or it could be spending a whole day scrubbing equipment clean. All of a sudden, a call will come in from above that you need to pack up everything you've got and move positions in a quarter of the time that it would normally take. A taste of action, some drama. Nerves and excitement flood your body until you arrive in a new position and there's nothing happening there, and you have nothing to do but sit and wait for 48 hours straight for new orders. In Call of Duty, the only downtime you get is on the loading screens. In the real world, your life becomes a loading screen punctuated by technical issues and crashes, but you can't get up and walk away in case you're suddenly needed. All there is to do is sit with your fellow soldiers and chat. The more time you have with them, the more you realize just how much you like them or hate them. At home, you would be experiencing war through your new 4K OLED. You have a drink by your side, all the snacks you could want in the fridge, AC and heating to keep your house at just the right temperature, and comfy sweatpants to lounge around in. But you're in good shape, you tell yourself. You could handle the strain of combat, right? Let's start with the gear. The exact equipment load for a Ukrainian soldier varies depending on their role, location, what mission they've been tasked with, and what specialized equipment is available to them. The standard issue rifle for the Ukrainian military is the AK-74. With a full magazine of ammunition, this weighs just a touch over 7 pounds or 3 kilos. Doesn't sound too bad. But each full magazine of ammo will add an additional half a pound onto that. So if you want to carry 150 rounds, you'll be carrying around 10 pounds or 4.5 kilos for your weapon alone. But it's not enough to just be able to shoot right. You want to be protected from shrapnel at least, not a guarantee, as Ukraine has struggled with its supply of body armor. One of their Ukrainian-made armor vests weigh up to another 20 pounds. A helmet will put another 3 pounds on top of that. But you'll need water too, at least 2 liters, enough for a day, so that'll be another 4.5 pounds. Then add on food rations, medical supplies, a change of clothes, a knife, any personal items you'd like to take. Very quickly you're looking at well over half your body weight. Now if senior command sends you out to plant landmines, that'll be another 22 pounds or 10 kilos per mine. Or an RPG, or night vision goggles. The soldier who sprints around on Call of Duty, bounding up flights of stairs and leaping out of windows, suddenly looks ridiculous. You can barely run for more than a few feet with a full equipment load. Raising your gun to aim down the sights, you suddenly realize just how awkward they are to hold. 7 pounds may not be that heavy, but it's away from your body, all of its weight going through your arms. Your aim wobbles all over the place, and the iron sights suddenly don't feel very helpful at all. You don't feel like much of a hero when you can barely breathe and hold a gun straight. Practicing shooting, you realize just how much joysticks or a mouse fail to capture the difficulties of aiming a gun. Standing up straight, you struggle to hit a target that's just 150 feet away. You need to lie down to have as much chance of landing consistent shots, and there's no reloading between each shot. Rounds don't just magically reappear in your supply. Anything left in a magazine you discard is gone. Reloading is awkward and slow. You catch your fingers and pinch your skin all the time, pulling back the heavy bolt. But as soon as you get into your first firefight, you suddenly wish with all of your heart that you were back at the shooting range training. You'd been sitting on guard for 8 days straight without seeing a single enemy, staring at the same stretch of road, bored out of your mind, when all of a sudden, gunfire erupts all around you. You duck and cover and do your best to peer out and make some sense of what's going on. You can't see anybody. There are no muzzle flashes. The bangs make you jump each time, but they're echoing off so many trees, cars, buildings, you have no way of telling which direction they're coming from. Your Call of Duty instincts kick in. You should change cover, run to a new spot, flank the enemy. You're about to do it. You signal what you're about to do to the soldier alongside you, a guy who's been your best friend since arriving in Ukraine. And as you look into his face, a bullet rips through it. The shot ricocheted off a car. It wasn't even meant for him, but it still carries enough force to blow his head open. You've never seen so much blood in your life. It sprays into your mouth and all across your clothing. The metallic taste makes you gag. You learn the hard way that not every headshot is an instant kill. You have to watch helplessly as a man you've grown to call your friend dies a gruesome death in your arms. All thoughts of running to change cover evaporate. Terror takes hold of you. You cower behind your cover as low as possible, hands over your head, shaking like a leaf, waiting for the horrible noises to stop. They go all the way through the night. It isn't until the next morning that the all clear is given. By this point, you've wet yourself and thrown up several times from stress and fear, all without firing a single shot. Your next combat comes a few days later. You spent all the time in between trying to prepare yourself, but it's little use. The fear is just as powerful as before. You fire a few hopeful shots in the vague direction of the enemy before flattening yourself behind the wall again. Firefight after firefight, and you have no clue if you've even hit an enemy yet, let alone killed them. Commanding officers move you from location to location with little warning and less explanation. The maps that you were used to in Call of Duty, self-contained arenas for battle, don't exist. It is one map, enormous and sprawling, going beyond the horizon in every direction. There is no safety, no main menu to quit to. Everywhere is a war zone, all of the time, even when you sleep. But eventually, exhaustion takes over, and somehow it all becomes normal. A numbness descends when the fighting breaks out. You slowly stop feeling anything until one moment you find a squad of Russian soldiers exposed in front of you. Just a few dozen feet away, you can see them clearly in your sights. You have the chance to catch your breath, steady your aim, and see the man that you're shooting. He looks just like your little brother. You start to cry. The numbness stops you from feeling anything, but your eyes give you away. Now is no time for weakness. This is what you came here for. You pull the trigger. The split-second delay as the bullet flies towards him takes an age. In that split second, all of the emotion suddenly hits you, but it's too late. You can do nothing but watch as the shot tears through his head. The numbness suddenly lifts. There is no rush of adrenaline, no feeling of a job well done. You feel overwhelmingly sick. You empty your stomach on the ground. It splashes over your hands. All in one go, the weight of your actions hit you like a truck. That wasn't just someone's avatar. That was someone. A human being with hopes and dreams who loved and was loved. You pulling the trigger meant that his mother and father would spend the rest of their years sobbing by his graveside, mourning the fact they'd never get to attend their child's wedding or know the joy of grandchildren. But there's no time to think through all of that now. The enemy has seen you. They're regrouping, ready to put a bullet in your head. Instincts take over and you fire again and again, killing 2 more men before you make a break for it, running back to safety. That night you lie awake staring at the ceiling. The once enticing thrill of warfare is dead. In its place rears an ugly monster. Your mind bounces back and forth across the dilemmas, never letting you rest. But again you are at war and there's no time to think about these things. You're woken in the middle of the night and thrown straight into the heat of another gunfight. Before you even have a chance to weigh up the morality of your actions, you're forced to commit them. The threat of death forces your hand. You keep killing. The worst day comes when you are sent to clear out a building full of Russian soldiers. Set up in ambush all around the perimeter, you see movement inside. The command comes swiftly. Open fire. You and your squad mates light up the building, peppering it with lead. Rumors reach you days later that there were some innocent civilians in there. As this generation of men, raised on the gentrified melodrama of Call of Duty, delved deeper and deeper into the realities of war, they were forced to face up to its grim truth head-on. The gruesome reality of taking a life became a sickeningly daily ritual. They would be thrown into combat encounters, terror coursing through them, and forced to play the twisted game of either taking another person's life or losing their own. No longer were they mere players in a game, but soldiers in a brutal struggle for survival. The sight of blood staining their hands and the haunting cries of the fallen stripped away the veneer of glory they had envisioned. They wouldn't sleep at night, going through day after day as shells of their former selves, empty husks completely worn away by the relentless decay of war. Their dreams of heroism crumbled in the face of death's grasp. They realized that in this battlefield, there were no respawns, no second chances, only the chilling embrace of mortality, and that mortality wound up feeling like little more than blind luck. Soldiers who were seasoned veterans, the best of all of them, would get hit at random by debris or a flanking platoon that no one had warned them about. Meanwhile, incompetent rookies barely capable of loading a magazine would survive fight after fight. If you took a shot in the arm or leg, you wouldn't just regenerate health or see a combat medic. Your body would be permanently damaged, unable to function like it used to. An entire squad could be holding a perfectly secure defensible position for months, only to suddenly have a drone drop a grenade on their heads and kill them all. There was no rhyme or reason to it, no greater purpose or grand narrative unfolding. It was chaos and death. That was all. As time dragged on, the soldiers started seeing TikToks about how most of the Russian soldiers had no idea where they were going when they'd been deployed. There'd been a grand misinformation campaign with soldiers' phones taken away from them to stop them telling their families what was really happening. What if the real enemy they were fighting was actually a man hiding in Moscow hundreds of miles away? What if the hordes of soldiers they were gunning down were in reality just brainwashed, coerced, and intimidated young men who had no clue what they were doing here in Ukraine? Would that absolve the Russian soldiers of their crimes? Not at all. But it was enough to keep the men up at night, turning over and over in their heads whether they were being the heroes they'd always dreamed of being. Call of Duty had presented war simply. The devs had always talked about how the games were apolitical, no biases or agendas to them, yet being out here in a war zone highlighted just how untrue that was. No matter which game it was and which real-life war it was copying, the message had always been the same. The individual soldier, the man on the ground fighting the battle, was the hero. They would turn the tide of the war, blowing up the key objective, assassinating the vital target, making the complex moral decisions that the higher-ups just couldn't understand. Their heroism was unquestionable. Even when the characters in the game resorted to torture to extract information, they were heroes. Don't question it. But lying there in the dark, replaying the horrors of weeks and months of combat, this generation of volunteer mercenaries saw that message for what it was. A total lie. They didn't feel like heroes. They didn't know if their victims were actually villains at all. All they knew was that they were trapped there, with the faces of their family members steadily fading from their memories. In Call of Duty, wars are won. The good guys find a way, they always do. They disarm the nuke at the last moment, they shoot down the missiles, they prevent the chemical attack. In the end, the heroes come out on top, even against the most dire odds. The real world just doesn't work like that. Russia and Ukraine have been locked in this war for years now, far longer than anyone predicted when the fighting first started. Who knows when it will end? Could it go on for another 3 years, or another 10, or maybe it will only last a month? And who wins in the end? As much as Ukraine is fighting for noble reasons to defend their homeland and protect their people from a foreign invader, that doesn't mean anything when it comes to determining who wins. The Russian army vastly outnumbers them, and their positive morale and sense of purpose can only last so long as years of exhaustion threaten to wipe them out. What if Ukraine doesn't win? What does that mean for these foreign mercenaries? How can they process that when they go home? That they worked so hard, took so many lives, and permanently damaged their minds and bodies only to lose the war? And if Ukraine wins, what is a win after all that bloodshed and pain? In a video game, you get to see the credit screen with some music and a pop-up asking if you'd like to start over again. In real life, war crashes economies, decimates populations with famine, and leaves generations of children growing up with PTSD-ridden parents. It's a dark, heavy cloud that hangs over a nation for decades on end, never really passing until after everyone who has experienced it has passed away themselves. Is that a victory? Is that the neat conclusion you were hoping for? In the end, these men were not heroes conquering virtual worlds, but victims of their own naivety. War had shown them the true cost of their folly, the irreversible loss of life, the shattered illusions, and the haunting echoes of their choices. And as they stood amidst the chaos, they knew that in war, every pull of the trigger carried with it the weight of a human soul, lost forever. They all learned the hard way. War is no game. Thanks for watching today's video. Make sure you subscribe to The Military Show for more great content from our military experts. Now go and check out It's Not Call of Duty: How Foreign Fighters Were Shocked in Ukraine, or click this other video instead.